Thanks to our silver sponsors, Listener-Driven Radio, MoFoo's, and the Media Audit. And a reminder, again, that we have a keynote coming up later by Tim Westergren, followed by the awards, so stick around for those. I'm going to introduce the next panel, which is called Mobile Streaming Making It Work. We're quickly finding ourselves in a world where mobile connectivity is as important as the web, and users expect their wireless interaction with content to be simple, seamless, and engaging as their web engaging as their web platform. But do listeners really use content differently when they're on the go? It's a good question. Our next panel addresses the concept of a winning formula for mobile streaming. I'd like to introduce the moderator, who is Michael Theodore from the Interactive Advertising Bureau. Like many digital immigrants, Michael Theodore started his professional career in traditional media, working in local and network news for a variety of news organizations up and down the California coast. After his first midlife crisis, he turned to management consulting. After his second midlife crisis, Michael turned to the internet, working for CitySearch and Cosmo.com. Michael, in recent years, has served in leadership positions with the New York New Media Association, the Connecticut Technology Council, and currently with the Interactive Advertising Bureau. Please welcome Michael Theodore.
Thanks, Jennifer, and thanks, Kurt. I got very excited when Jennifer had said that there were a lot of tchotchkes at this show. I brought an empty suitcase to take home all the tchotchkes, and obviously I misunderstood what she was talking about. So I want to introduce our panel. First up is Jake Siegel. Founded Livio Radio in 2008, brought to market internet radio consumer electronic products that have shaped an entire industry. Before launching Livio, he worked as a DJ and a product developer for Newmark, where he invented the original Ion USB turntable, and after Newmark he was at XM as a product developer. Next up, Jim Cady. The CEO of Slacker is definitely not one. He's already run and built two very successful startups, Rio Digital Audio and Diamond Multimedia. He spent most of his career in consumer electronics, and now he's running one of the most popular digital audio companies. And the third bachelor, these chairs really are, right? The third bachelor loves long walks on the beach, rainbows, and unicorns. Larry Lung is a triple threat. He's the CEO, the CTO, and the founder of Aircast. It's AirBridge mobile platform. It's one of the largest in the industry. And among the awards, his very young startup has already picked up: Best iPhone Digital Content and Advertising App, Best Java and BlackBerry app, and Best Delivery Platform for Mobile. So welcome to our panelists. We can take questions during the panel, so feel free to raise your hand during when you hear something you want to comment on, and we'll get your comment included. So let me just start by playing devil's advocate. Streaming mobile is a really tiny sliver of digital audio, of internet radio, which is a pretty small sliver. So let's pretend that I'm Goldilocks, and I want to know, is the hype about streaming mobile, is it over the top? Is it not nearly enough for what a powerful medium can be, or is it just right? So let's start with you, Jake.
Well, for me, coming from a consumer electronics background, my focus as far as where streaming mobile is, it's the distribution. You know, a radio without a speaker is not a radio. It would be a tuner. So I look at mobile as where you're going and how you're listening to music. We focus primarily on car, but it also includes in the home and on the go. And very few of our partners look at a specific area not as part of a mobile strategy. So all of the products that we work with connect through mobile devices. And another example of this, if you go into an Apple store, you're going to see less and less connected docks or connected, home radios, and more wirelessly mobile connected products to stream music. So a product that traditionally would not have used a mobile streaming strategy is now using a mobile streaming strategy.
Okay, so Jim, the hardware is coming along, but where do you stand on Goldilocks? What should I do?
Well, I think there's a couple things. I mean, I think look back 5 years ago and then look at today. So, like everybody that does not have a mobile phone in their pocket to raise their hand. Okay? So there's the answer, right? I mean, I think that, and the fact is that the mobile phones are getting more powerful on a daily basis. The time in which people switch them out and get more and more powerful phones is decreasing. The time, if you just look back 18 months ago, the average time of a mobile phone in the marketplace was 24 months. Today, it is 14 months. People are switching them out to get faster devices, and things with bigger screens. And the fact is, we spend more time with our mobile phone. We may not like it, and considering that I've probably got 5 in my backpack, but it's the fact of life, right? We spend all of our waking moments with a mobile phone within reach, and that is going to be a powerful medium. As you said today, it's not it's not going to be a revolution where everybody switches in one case. It's going to be a case where people evolve to that, and they evolve to the media that's available via that device.
Okay, and Larry, where do you stand? Papa Bear, Mama Bear?
Can I just say in my quick defense, I'm only single for the next 4 weeks. I'm untaken. I'm scheduled to be at a wedding in about 4 weeks' time, and unfortunately it's mine. But let me throw this out to the audience. I mean, how many people out there have a gut feeling that audio streaming on mobile phones is going to go away tomorrow? So I don't think it's overhyped, to be honest, Michael. Let's try to apply some theory and some real examples on what we see as an Aircast company. There's a famous book out there that every Silicon Valley entrepreneur's probably read, and Jim's probably read it as well. It's called Crossing the Chasm. Who knows the writer of that book? I got a bottle of red wine for the first person who tells me who. There you go, Simon. Bottle of wine to the back. California. So if you look at what Jeffrey Moore says, he said there's really a curve in which at first we get the early adopters, the people who really want to try mobile streaming, try some of the new technology, the geeks of the world. However, if there's not enough momentum with these people, it's going to fall into the chasm. What we see right now, and through some of the data and some of the statistics we see on some of the customers we work with, we've seen that chasm being crossed already. We're right now at that main point where it goes into mainstream popularity. And I think there's enormous opportunities for all our stations here to really start to think about how us as a station, you as a content provider, us as a mobile technology, can really now leverage this mainstream audience. I'll give you one real life example. One of the customers we work with is a company called Bloomberg. As you know, Bloomberg is going around buying media companies. Bloomberg basically wants to be the business hub, the hub for all business media. Right now, Bloomberg's got an AM station in New York, but they want to now be able to broadcast that AM station across the country and be able to be kind of like the ESPN for sport as Bloomberg is for business. So what did they do? Did they go out and buy FM antennas and try to reach the rest of the country? They didn't, because they know, one, that's going to be very costly, and two, time-consuming. So what did Bloomberg do? We worked with Bloomberg to really leverage the mobile technology to get their stream now to a national audience. So Bloomberg is probably one of the bleeding-edge companies that now use a mobile purely for streaming to reach a completely different level of audience. So, in terms of your question, Michael, and I'm sorry I'm taking a little longer than, but no, I don't think it's overhyped. But I think there's a lot of stuff that we still need to do today to get mobile correct. And we see ESPN do it, we see Disney do it, and there's an enormous amount of opportunities for all the radio groups here to do it as well.
So the hardware is either already out there in the marketplace in the incredible rise of smartphones. We're going to see more of it in cars. We're going to see other kinds of portable electronic devices which will make it more possible to have that distribution channel. But let's talk about how you make money out of it. One of the things that we notice in interactive advertising is that in broadcasting, in television, and in print, there has been for a long time a situation of over-indexing, where advertisers are paying a premium for an ever-diminishing audience. And this goes back a long time, even before the erosion of viewers and readers, where the advertisers were paying a premium for those audiences. Radio, as we unfortunately all know, is traditionally an under-indexed medium, as is all of interactive media right now. So what leads you to believe that in terms of making any money out of this, that this is going to be a successful business model? Jim?
So I can tell you today, and we don't announce numbers because we're a private company, but I can tell you that every free listener on our service is gross margin positive, and every subscriber is definitely positive. So in our case, I think it's really just building a better system to be able to interact with the consumer via advertising. So we provide about 6 different kinds of advertising today. We'll provide about 10 different kinds of advertising before the end of the year, and we are, highly profiling kind of customer bases, not to an individual level to, kind of creep people out and void their privacy, but really going after them in a basis where the advertising becomes a value add, right? They get something that's interesting to them, something that may not be interesting to them that they can hear. So it's something that they get that's specific to them. In other words, running customers that are interested in running shoes get an ad for running shoes. And as a result, they interact a lot more, and as a result, the advertising rates go up dramatically.
Larry, do you think that, Jim's creating a new audience here, because Slacker's a kind of company, and there's obviously a lot in that space, but it's basically new content and finding new audiences. But in a lot of cases, you're dealing with broadcasters. You're dealing with people who are migrating over to mobile. Aren't they just eating their young?
I hope not. No, I think one of the things that we have learned over the kind of 3 years we've worked with a lot of the radio groups, now we have your mobile streaming out there, is now how do you really monetize that? Over the last 3 months, we've really gone out to try to figure out for our radio groups, what does it take to make money on mobile? We've been through a few experiments. We connected mobile stations to ad exchanges, mobile ad exchanges, which, to be honest, doesn't work. Whenever you're trying to serve a banner ad on your mobile environment, you're going to get the ad agency trying to barter you down to the last penny, so your CPM rates don't work at all. What we have seen work in terms of mobile advertising is campaign-based selling. We've been to a number of agencies, and we really asked them, look, what is it that's going to take for you guys to get onto mobile? The 2 things that they want from us today are pre-roll videos and hyperlocal. And if you look at what you guys have, you have incredible amount of hyperlocal content. It's just how do we now take that content and package it and sell it to the advertising agency? What we have seen that works really well, especially with customers like ESPN, is selling it based on campaigns. ESPN did doing a JetBlue campaign where it's JetBlue from start of the application to the end of the application. And campaign and ad agency love paying for campaigns to take over of your apps. We've been doing one with Toyota recently, where Toyota wants to hit a certain demographics. They want to hit certain places within the country. And guess what? Our station groups have these demographics and have these local presences that Toyota really wants. So I think in terms of making money on mobile, it's really a packaging that we have to do today. And we got to learn how to package what we have from local to some of the media content and distribute it onto mobile and do it in a way that the ad agencies and also the advertisers want to buy. And I think that's the real challenge there.
Jake, how do you see the in the consumer market, both autos and other kinds of devices? What do you see as a trend that's going to help speed along the migration to mobile?
Well, I think the thing that I hear from my customers, and one of our products, which is called the Livio Connect API, which connects hardware, radios, cars, refrigerators, et cetera, to various mobile apps, the biggest thing that we're hearing is from the hardware manufacturers, they want to have the choice. They want to be able to decide, they want the consumers to decide which apps they want, and sometimes they want an app for music, they want an app for audio, they want to switch back and forth. There's a whole range, and the way I see it on apps is it goes from you have a DJ, which is telling you, playing what they want you to listen to, all the way to your iTunes library, which you're in 100% control, and then everything in between. And certain companies, have a more of a spread. Some are very specific, and the hardware companies typically they just want the consumer to make the choice. So what our focus is making sure that when you start one of these products, that it can start whatever app that you want it to start in a safe manner, especially in a vehicle. Unfortunately, there's not going to be any video advertising in a car, so which is where a majority of this radio listening happens for obvious reasons. But I do think that having hyperlocal targeting makes a lot of sense. We think that by having more data on what are you drivers doing, so having instead of calling a pre-roll, it's on car start, where you have someone that is definitely paying attention and the car just started, and knowing that your app's going to start when the car starts, that should increase eCPMs. Livio cannot solve the problem that I think most people in this room have of doesn't make sense to stream, does not make sense to stream, the rates. I mean, we're not solving that problem, but as that problem, and I think we all believe will sort itself out, our job is to make it more profitable by increasing eCPMs and providing more data, and thus giving the consumer more choice.
I want to switch over to another topic, because the word hasn't come up yet. But first, let me ask a question. Are there any agencies in the room? Great. So, Jake. Sorry, Jim. Let me ask Jim. So, agencies really understand mobile streaming, right? I mean, they're on the cutting edge of understanding the power of mobile. Am I right?
No, I think you're totally wrong. And the
Shocked.
reason,
Shocked.
give you an indication, just give you a couple of examples, and I can't name names, but I can give you. We partner with a variety of people to help us. Triton, your main sponsor for today, is selling all of our audio inventory. But on some of the display stuff and some of the other pre-roll video, we don't have a sales force, right, that sells our ads. We use other people to be able to do that. In the last 6 weeks, we've gotten 3 from Fortune 25 companies, $500,000 insertion orders that have come in directly. And I've called a couple of them and asked. And one of them, I actually ended up talking to the chief marketing officer, who is a Fortune 15 company, and said, why would you send us this around your agency? And she said very quickly, they don't get it, right? We understand it, they don't get it, right? So it is definitely something that I think that some of the more progressive marketing people understand. I think the agencies are a little bit slow in terms of understanding it, and we've got to do a better job of educating them on it.
This would typically be the place where I, as a representative of the Interactive Advertising Bureau, would insert a shameless plug about our organization and how our goal, made up of companies like yours, and many of them are here in this room, do a lot of things to educate agencies and marketers, and I would direct you to our table later where we actually have a report that we're trying to educate agencies and marketers with, but I would not do that because that would be wrong. Larry, what's your experience with agencies? How do you work with them? What sort of obstacles do you see? How do you convince them?
I have to repeat exactly what Jim said. The agencies really don't get it. But I don't think it's purely the fault of the agencies themselves. I think in ourselves, we really need to provide them with kind of collateral information on how they can sell into mobile. And that's something that we haven't done very well. We've been on the road in New York, and I talking to a number of these big agencies, everyone from WPP, DBB, Moxie, all the really progressive agencies as well. One of the things that I think they lack is, one, statistics. They need to understand what's happening in mobile. They need to understand the trends, and that's something that we haven't really gone out to give to them. And that's going to change very quickly with some of the things that we're doing at Aircast. The other thing is really understanding what you're capable of beyond just banner ads on mobile. As Jim said, there's pre-roll videos, there's takeover, there's interstitials. As far as an agency is concerned, when they think of mobile, they think of banners. And that's something that we have to move and educate them away from, and then really tell them how you can really connect to someone on a mobile device. If you think about what we do with mobile is probably one of the most personal devices we have. But we need to educate the ad agencies how to connect to that person on a personal level, and also with the radio groups as well. I'm hearing audio feeds through my ears. If I hear a Geico ad, I should be able to look down on my screen and click a button and call someone at Geico. And that's something that I think we need to work with the agencies to develop, but also also the radio groups, and not to just sell your audio ads as a standalone, but to sell it in conjunction with your mobile display ads as well.
And if you're going to create new, more interactive, more effective types of ads for that unique environment, you also need measurements that are really unique, that really measure what it is, that personal experience that you have with your smartphone. You need to be measuring something different than what we've been measuring all along.
I think I could give you a really good example, and it doesn't just really, stats is not really just how often someone started an application. It's really to do with trend analysis on what you're seeing within the whole network. We started something recently where we actually looked at radio groups, and we can actually tell which stations, how many users listen to that radio station on what carrier network. And we can say, for example, there's more people listening on your radio station on AT&T's carrier network than on Verizon, on T-Mobile, or on Sprint. If I give you that information, think about what you can do with it. You could go to Verizon now, sell an enormous campaign to these guys and target AT&T customers directly. Or do you go to AT&T and sell them a campaign to allow them to reinforce their customer base? So it's really kind of using that information smartly and looking at trends within what people are doing on mobile, which is going to be interesting.
So let me give you one example of a test, right? So, and this is not something that it's not a way out there, right? So one example is you're using your mobile phone to connect to the car stereo in your automobile. You're driving down the road, you hear an audio ad. The audio ad comes on for something that you were interested in. You give the device a voice activation, send me more. And in this case, within 90 seconds, you receive a customized message for you with a specific coupon to be able to purchase that product to your email, which happens to show up on your mobile phone, right? That is, so it's interesting. It's not way out there. I can tell you that it's being developed today, and actually in some cases in test today.
And Jake, as cars become more electronic, as digital brains take over what used to be purely mechanical pieces, do you see ways there's going to be greater communication between the audio digital devices and other parts of the vehicles for exchanging data?
Yeah, and we've seen this already with implementations from current providers like Pandora is one example that is kind of taking the lead with Ford and their My Ford Touch and their AppLink connectivity. Where my focus is at Livio is finding a way that multiple streams from multiple devices on multiple operating systems, on multiple cars, and multiple versions of cars, and multiple types of Bluetooth connecting at the same time. So you got this six-dimensional jigsaw puzzle of putting it together. So that's really the challenge that we've seen in Detroit, and that's what we've been trying to fix, is finding a way to make everything work on that same system. So the button that Jim's talking about, which is the tag button, the buy button, whatever, the reply button, or the voice activation on a Ford Sync product, that exists today. It's just what do you do with it, and how does that work for independent radio companies that want to stream? How does that work for majors and everyone in between?
So are there any questions? Again, I don't want to keep blabbing here if any of you have questions. Yes, go ahead.
I have a question. You talk about the chasm and the fact that, of all these things with ad insertions and everything, how do we get mobile phones into the hands of people that right now say, I don't need a mobile phone, I don't want to pay the extra, I'm happy with that little phone I've got right now, I don't need a smartphone. How do we get that? Because when we do that, then you've got a huge amount of people that are going to finally be open to all these other things that we're talking about.
So I just came from a Verizon Advisory Board Council meeting yesterday, or last night actually, in Las Vegas. Those, and unfortunately they will never repeat those numbers, but those numbers are staggering already, right? The feature phone business is almost done, right? I mean that business is finished. In Europe, as an example, in the UK, 68% of every new phone sold is a smartphone. And the rate at which it's climbing is at about 5% a month. So by the end of the year, there will virtually be no kind of feature phones sold in the UK, and the US is actually at a faster pace of adoption than the UK is. So it's already there. It's happening.
Yeah, I agree. There's a natural evolution in terms of what mobile phone is going through right now. If you look at the Android operating system, it's appearing on really simple, very low-speed chipset phones already. So I mean, just by nature of one, the carriers pushing for it, and then the likes of a Google wanting more of the OS on these devices, which become smart devices, will naturally create that demand at that volume there. So I think it itself will naturally do it. I think the last guest had a great idea where they were giving away smartphones. Who was that? That was Joe from Radio 1. I think that's another great way to do it, give them away. So, but you see a lot of the carriers are already giving them away for 2-year contracts. You get 2 free Verizon Android phones. So I think that in itself will naturally solve itself.
Another interesting phenomenon you're going to see, right? And it's not with people of my age, right? But it's with my son, right? So my son's 21 years old, right? He no longer has need for a PC, right? That's what's happening, right? I mean, he lives in an apartment, doesn't have a landline, doesn't have a PC, doesn't have connectivity other than his phone. His phone is his lifeline, right, for everything. And as devices get bigger, as browsers get better, as processors get faster, right, you're going to find that this new generation of customers are going to have less and less need, actually, even for a PC. They're going to use their phones for everything.
So let me ask, I guess probably will be about the last question, which is wave your magic wand. We'll go back to fairy tales to end it up. Wave your magic wand, and what is the one change that you want to see happen that is going to have the biggest impact on this industry? That's going to lead to greater adoption by the consumer, by the agencies. What do you see as what's the one thing you want to make happen?
I think it's codec support. I think having a standard set of codecs that everyone's streaming at makes it a lot easier for devices, phones, cars, whatever, to tune into it, which then makes it easier for people to access and also reduces the amount of data that's transferred over.
Jim?
That's a very good question, and I was thinking about it. So I'm not exactly sure how to answer, but I'll give you one thing that I think is definitely there, and that is to continue to kind of evolve services, and we are striving to do this with other pieces of content like ABC News and such, to provide the customer with exactly what they want, right? So to provide them with the level of content, the depth of content, and the breadth of content that they wish, right? Today, I don't think that's still necessarily available. We're making strides at making it available, but I think it's something that I think everybody's got to move forward to, so a customer can actually have a seamless experience that is more entertainment-oriented, with part of that being music.
Right, and you just said music, and I think spoken word, whether it's in the traditional AM format or something that goes way beyond it. There's no reason that a book experience or a lecture experience, and I doubt that many people, that your son would want to spend a lot of time listening to that, but that's something that perhaps a slightly older and more mature demographic might be interested in. But there are probably all sorts of other formats that we should be thinking about streaming as an opportunity to invent new content and not just be looking at new types of advertising.
Yeah, and be able to personalize it so people really kind of engage with it, right? So I drive in the morning and I listen to Slacker through my car, right? And I really don't want to know about the Kardashians, right? I really want to know about the finance.
We all want to know about the Kardashians.
I really want to know what the finance news is, and I want to know what the sports scores for last night is. And then the rest of my time I want to listen to music, right, that's tailored for me. So I really want to be able to tailor the content and have a breadth of content that makes sense for me. And that's much more engaging, I think. And as we poll our customers, which we have a few of them, that we get pretty good feedback that that's exactly what they want.
And Larry, what's the one change that you'd like to see?
Like Jim, I don't think there's going to be one particular change that's going to make things happen any quicker. What I have seen, however, is as radio stations and radio groups, it's really important for you to, one, protect your brand. Don't let someone use your brand. Don't let someone steal your content and then try to represent it. It's really important because you spend an enormous amount of money promoting your DJs, promoting your brand, promoting your content, and it's important for you to be recognized on a mobile device on that. I think the other thing that we really like to see is, and again, it was mentioned in the last speech, for the radio groups to really embrace the digital and mobile environment. Don't use it as just a checkbox. Okay, I got a stream, but now take it to another level. You have audience out there who's screaming for local content, who want to be on that radio station, but wants more. We see an incredible amount of activities around podcasts right now. And as you know, you have celebrities out there making $2 million on websites just talking through podcasts. A lot of the radio groups have these celebrities. It's time for you to release them onto mobile devices and start addressing some of the wants of your consumers. And then finally, see mobile as an extension of your radio stream, as part of your as an extension of your sales stream, as an extension of your content as well. We notice some of the radio groups have incredible content, and not only audio but video, where you have Kate Perry come into the studio, do an interview, you video record actually does a gig. Your audience and your mobile providers audience would love to see that. It's just how you're going to provision that in a mobile device and a mobile package that's going to address a lot of their wants and needs.
Okay, last word, anything from the audience? All right then, Larry, Jim, and Jake, thanks very much for your time. Appreciate it.